But to the atheists or agnostics listening to me, do not think God doesn't consider the internal justifications you've posited in your quest to deny his existence against the evidence he has given you. We've all been given a general revelation of his existence. So your choice to pretend we have no creator is on you.
You can read minds.
Welcome back everyone to Bridge the Divide, where I examine irrational beliefs, the irrational behaviors that often follow, and how we, with education, rationality, and reason, can bridge the societal divides that they create. Let's face it, when you dig through the Walmart discount bin that is Christian apologetics, you get a lot of the same old ham-handed manipulative crap espoused by these same names over and over and over again. Which is why I'm a bit excited for this video today, because it's the first opportunity I've gotten to respond to a video from this particular apologist. Tampa University management professor and business administration PhD Stephanie J. Thomason, or for those more familiar with her online moniker S.J. Thomason, has been cranking out the apologetics videos over on her channel Truth Matters with S.J. Thomason for about 5 years now. She's a staunch Catholic who, while spending an inordinate amount of time trying to ad hoc rescue the Bible, focuses her content on holding self-validating sessions with other like-minded hard conservative theists, or hummingbirding around a variety of atheist names far larger and more established than her own. She's also an author with 5 apologetics books under her belt, all of which are, as generally expected, just a saccharine sweet regurgitation of old, tired, and fundamentally fallacious apologetics. But in this video today, Stephanie eschews her usual banal questions that she thinks atheists can't answer, in favor of what she thinks are 10 reasons not to be an atheist. So despite how much that title may foreshadow how little SJ understands about what atheism actually is, let's dive in and see exactly what she has for us. You have 10 shots, SJ, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, it's S.J. Thomason, and today we're going to discuss 10 reasons not to be an atheist.
Well, that's truly fascinating, Stephanie. I say that because you don't actually need to present 10 reasons when you really only need to present one. And that one would be some actual evidence that supports the rational justification for believing that your God exists. Were you to actually do that, then we all would officially know that a God exists, and by extension, we would have no choice but to be theists. And yes, I said theists, not Christians. Because, you know, the whole human sacrifice, blood magic ritual, cannibalism, by proxy apocalyptic death cult thing is an entirely different animal. However, if evidence that would invalidate atheism is not what you're going to present here, then all you're really left with here, SJ, is what you think is your justification. And if that's the case, I'm very curious to hear what 10 things you've got that you think rationally justify being a theist, let alone being a Catholic.
10. We're hardwired by God within our conscience to seek the truth. And atheists have fallen for a lie by the father of lies. Satan's best work is in getting you to think he doesn't exist.
I kind of misunderstood the assignment.
It is well documented that human beings are naturally curious and exploratory organisms. This is because, as a species, we have a powerful aversion to the unknown due to the potential dangers that it may be hiding from us. We also know that truth-seeking is one of the best ways to ensure that we can survive long-term while navigating our environments. All you've done here, SJ, is taken an extremely common and well-understood trait of our species, ignored the direct evidence that shows us that this trait developed as a survival mechanism during our evolutionary timeline, and then claim that it came from your God, which of course is just you assuming that your God, and by extension your Satan, both exist in order to do such a thing. This of course is not a reason to not be an atheist, but it is a great example of how someone can reject or even flat out ignore evidence in favor of what they want to be true. You're 0-1, Stephanie.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
9. We're hardwired to seek purpose and meaning. And atheism has no purpose, meaning, or explanation of our existence, other than a lucky cosmic accidents.
Oh, Deja vu.
So you're saying your second reason is essentially the same as your first one, only instead of overall truth-seeking as a means for survival, you're just narrowing the focus down to the psychological and emotional desires of the individual. Now, to address that, yes, humans generally possess a psychological drive to find purpose or meaning for their lives. And for each person, that purpose or meaning is what is true for them in regards to their own emotional fulfillment. Some people find their purpose easily, some spend their entire lives searching for it. But either way, the form or function of a person's meaning or purpose is unique to them and is certainly not a one-size-fits-all for the entire species. And trying to psychologically impose such a system upon human beings essentially just robs the individual of their autonomy and their identity. Which of course is, and I'll let you in on this little secret, exactly how cults operate. This is precisely why I, and others like me, constantly encourage others to do the hard work by seeking out and establishing their purpose for themselves, so they can better avoid falling into the trap of having predatory individuals or groups dictate what their purpose or meaning is for them. Also, since it's only concerned with not possessing the belief in the existence of a god or gods, atheism itself says nothing about what an individual's purpose or meaning should be. In fact, atheism doesn't say anything at all in regards to cosmology, abiogenesis, or evolution. As far as scientific claims go, we should always be going where the evidence leads. And unfortunately for you, SJ, none of the evidence points towards any gods existing, which is precisely why in your repetition of your first reason, you are again assuming your god exists and then defining it as that which serves this function. And the sad part is that you're likely doing this as a result of being indoctrinated from a young age into believing that anything that you might want for yourself had no value. So seeing as how your second reason was really just a repetition of your first reason, this is again not a reason to not be an atheist. 0 for 2.
8. Humans are exceptional, but many atheists think we're no better than apes.
I have to say, it's rather confounding, Stephanie, that you think that this astonishingly biased emotional appeal is actually a reason. The only thing exceptional about human beings are our brains, because that's the direction our evolution took us. But in all other features, by comparison to other living organisms on the planet, we kind of, to put it mildly, suck. How you phrase this, SJ, is also really disingenuous because utilizing the term know better is nothing more than a deceptive way to appeal to the arrogant speciesism of your fellow Christians while simultaneously painting atheists as collectively possessing a negative view of humans. So, given that your educational background is in business administration and management, SJ, I will try to make this as abundantly clear for you as I can. In the context of talking about human beings, the words animal, primate, and ape are not pejoratives. What they actually are terms of taxonomical classification, which are predominantly based on morphology. All of the organisms that occupy the taxonomical kingdom of Animalia exist in what we refer to as nested hierarchies, meaning that multiple species can fall within the same genus, multiple genera can fall within the same family, families within the same order, orders within the same class, classes within the same phylum, phylums within the same kingdom, and kingdoms within the same domain.
Yes, science!
Thank you, 7th grade biology. There are also further breakdowns within each individual taxonomic ranking, like superfamilies and suborders, but those are essentially just doing for the individual ranks what the total tree is doing itself. And then running throughout all of these various hierarchies are what we call clades, which are a classification of common descent we've established utilizing the evidence provided by assembling phylogenetic trees in the field of cladistics. So, when people who are scientifically literate refer to humans as apes, or the clade of old world simians called hominoidea, it's not because they have a negative opinion or disdain for the human species, it's because phylogenetically we are apes, specifically great apes or hominids. And just as all of us apes are nested together within primates, all the primates are nested within mammalia, and all mammals are chordates, and all chordates are animals, and all animals are eukaryotes. So ultimately, this is not a reason to not be an atheist, but it is a great example of the deceptive practices and anti-intellectualism that goes into defending faith concepts. 0 for 3, SJ.
That's no good.
7. Our DNA is a sequence of around 3 billion A, C, G, and T nucleotide pairs, which is a blueprint for our development from a single cell. If you saw a sequence of words in a book or written in the sand at the beach, surely you'd acknowledge a mind originated these works.
Well, I have to admit, that's the loosest presentation of the argument from design I have ever heard. Regardless, the argument fails for a number of reasons. One, because it's a false equivalence. DNA and a book, or even writing itself, are not analogous by any rational measure, because DNA is the result of the reactions of naturally forming chemicals under specific circumstances, while a book, and even the language within it, thus far as we can tell, require a mind to create them. Two, the appearance of complexity by human standards is not a hallmark of intelligent design. In actuality, simplicity and efficiency are the hallmarks of design. Simplicity reduces the failure rate of any given system by reducing the number of parts within the system and reducing the amount of interactions between those parts in order to minimize the chances that one failure can become systemic, while efficiency reduces the amount of necessary energy expenditure into the system while maintaining or even improving the quality of the output. And the more complex a system becomes, the more inefficient it becomes due to the presence of so many additional moving parts, all the energy necessary in order to keep those parts moving, and the increased odds of systemic failure. Any engineer or biologist will tell you that these are not terms that we can rationally use when trying to describe any of the multitude of systems that make up the universe. And 3, as David Hume pointed out centuries ago, even if the universe were in fact designed and we had enough evidence to determine that, that would only be sufficient enough to get you to an intelligence, not to any one specific God. Thus, SJ, you claiming that this possible intelligence behind the creation of everything is in fact the God that you believe in is just you defining it into existence again. So, given the number of logical fallacies that are present here, we can see that the argument from design, which descends directly from the teleological argument, no matter how watered down you try to present it, is in no way justification for stating that there is a God, and is certainly not a reason to not be an atheist. That makes you 0 for 4, Stephanie. Are you sure you want to keep going?
I'm in too deep.
6, your time here very much matters to your salvation.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Our time here matters to our salvation? How is that even a reason for anything? Obviously, it assumes that humans need to be saved from anything. It also assumes that there is something that exists that wants to or even necessarily must save us. And it ignores all of the logical problems entailed by a God-created system in which all of the agents within must be saved from something that itself was created by that God. Especially when nothing exists external to the God to dictate that it must necessarily create the system in such an egocentric manner. This is not a reason for anything, Stephanie. All it is just a silly reiteration of what you already believe. 0 for 5.
5, the universe is mathematically structured, as evidenced by its constants and repetition of the Fibonacci sequence. God's fingerprint is in our fingerprints: sunflowers, seashells, and galaxies.
You serious?
Yeah, this is not a reason. This is just your observer bias. First, mathematics is a quantitative language of logic that describes, not prescribes, the universe we exist in. Second, patterns in nature, like the Fibonacci sequence or golden ratio, are not as prevalent as you think they are. And third, the existence of patterns in large systems is in no way evidence that any specific God exists. At its core, what you just presented here, SJ, is nothing more than an argument from personal incredulity predicated upon your unfortunate ignorance. You're 0 for 6 now. Only 4 swings left to provide that justification for your theism. Unless, of course, you've got that evidence that I mentioned earlier.
Somehow I doubt that.
4, nature and the cosmos point to a significant beauty in our Creator.
That's beautiful, man.
Beauty is often referred to as one of the 5 transcendentals. Beauty is also inherently subjective. That you find something to be beautiful does not logically entail that anyone else finds it beautiful. It does not entail that there is an objective standard of beauty, and it does not imply the existence of any external agent demarcating that which is or is not beautiful. Essentially, this is a simplistic version of the transcendental argument for God, or TAG. Once again, SJ, all you've done here is just reiterate what you already believe, and you've provided zero justification for why you believe it. 0 for 7.
3, numerous miracles by the saints as evidenced at Lourdes, Fatima, and in many other places, and people such as Padre Pio. These point to the supernatural.
Like you could possibly know that.
Okay, well this one's pretty easy. Any purported miracles that are performed by some long-dead individual cannot actually be verified, so all of these are just historical anecdotes that the Catholic Church chooses to prop up as evidence. The purported miracles at Lourdes, France back in 1858, which center around a number of apparitions and supposed medical miracles, when scrutinized further by independent investigators, they found that all of the reports were either unverifiable anecdotes, the results of the placebo effect, or just flat-out misdiagnoses. The event at Fatima, which was a purported apparition of the Virgin Mary appearing in the sky, quickly fell apart after interviewing the witnesses separately, revealed that of all the people who were interviewed, they either did not see what anybody else saw, or they in fact saw nothing at all, and just fell in with the religious mass hysteria in order to not feel left out or be seen as a disbeliever. And of all the varying legends surrounding the Capuchin friar, Padre Pio, all of the ones that were recorded came from claims that Pio made about himself that even he acknowledged that he could not replicate. And the fact that Padre Pio suffered pretty much throughout his entire life from a litany of well-documented psychological symptoms associated with schizophrenia cannot rationally be hand-waved away. There is also the small matter that independent investigative efforts have either been controlled, stymied, or waylaid by the Catholic Church themselves, because obviously they have a vested interest in maintaining their narrative. I'm not really sure how many times I'm going to have to say this, Stephanie, but you just reasserting your unjustified beliefs is not only not a reason to not be an atheist, but it's also quickly becoming a reason not to take you seriously. 0 for 8.
2. Our Father created us and loves us. We're made as man and woman in the image of God. We're his image bearers.
You're repeating yourself, you know that?
So yet another pointless repetition of what you already believe, and still no justification for why anyone else should believe it. 0 for 9, SJ. You've got one last shot, so I hope you make it a good one.
And number 1, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He suffered, was crucified, and was buried as a sacrifice for our sins and our salvation. He is risen. His resurrection is attested multiply from the ancients who had no reason to craft lies. Many were martyred in gruesome ways, but their testimonies remain.
Really? You're wrapping this whole thing up with an appeal to the Bible, and while providing zero justification for why anyone should believe the Bible or even take it seriously. Firstly, no one cares what you think about your version of the Jesus character in your mythology because it's irrelevant. Secondly, the logically possible existence of someone named Jesus, or something to that effect, in Iron Age Palestine is in no way evidence that a God exists. And third, absolutely no one is claiming that any of the people who purportedly died for their beliefs did so intentionally knowing that those beliefs were a lie. What people like me are actually doing is just pointing out that people going to their graves willingly for what they believe is a fairly common occurrence throughout human history. Just because some ancient world gullible cultists were willing to die horribly for what they believe is not evidence that what they believed was true. It's just evidence for the extreme nature of their beliefs. And you seem to have forgotten, SJ, that there are surviving stories from mythologies that predate the Bible by thousands of years. The fact that there was a concerted effort throughout history by the surviving members of this cult in order to keep these stories alive is in no way evidence that they were true. It's just evidence that those people believed they were true. And by the way, Stephanie, all of those martyrdom stories you appear to love so much either cannot be verified or have been found out by biblical scholarship to be complete and total fabrications. So you might want to stop regurgitating the party line and actually dive into the scholarship on those. And sadly, that's 0 for 10, Stephanie.
You didn't see that coming?
You provided no rational justification for what you believe to be true, and you spent most of the time just smugly repeating the stuff that you already believed to be true, as though anyone else should believe them on that basis alone. And if what's presented in this video is a demonstration of the quality of your apologetics, then believe me, Stephanie, you are not going to convince anyone what you believe is true just solely on the basis that you think it is. The important thing here in regards to bridging the divide is, of course, communication. If you feel that someone's position is inaccurate or predicated upon false information or bad premises, it's important to not only fully understand their position to ensure that it's not you just assuming they're being unreasonable, but also to speak with them instead of at them. This not only aids the conversation in being productive, but also ensures that the parties are not being unjustly dismissive of one another. I bring this up because the tactic you've chosen here, Stephanie, in presenting your content is completely counterintuitive to your stated goal. You can't really expect to convince anyone of anything if your approach is just to spout what you already believe, then demand, or idly threaten, that they should believe it as well, without ever providing the necessary justification for those beliefs. Until you're willing to make the effort of appropriately matching your tactic to your goal, your future efforts will continue to be just you repeatedly self-validating while expecting different results. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And be sure to leave a comment below. I love reading your responses, and those interactions help with the dreaded algorithm. Don't forget, April is Autism Acceptance Month. A link to where you can support these important efforts is down in the description. And if you love scary movies, be sure to check out me and my filmmaker friends over at the Week in Horror podcast, now in our 5th season. Everything you need to become a channel member here, get yourself some official Bridge the Divide gear, an official Darth, Dawkins Squeak toy, or support the podcast is down in the description. Once again, I thank each and every single one of you for your continued support of this channel, and as always, be safe, be excellent to each other, and together, we can bridge the divide.